And welcome back, everybody. Hi. Inspired by Caleigh Fisher, who is today with me in the studio. Hi, Caleigh. Yeah.
Good morning from Canada.
Good morning from Poland. Good afternoon from Poland. We have noon at the moment. So,
So
yesterday,
you're on the same time as London?
I think I am 1 hour behind.
1 hour.
1 hour ahead. Sorry, I'm in Poland. So in
Yeah.
Warsaw.
You're before. You're east of London.
Exactly. So yesterday, before going to sleep, I said goodnight to all my friends. Just like I went to Twitter, and then on your Twitter feed, I just seen their repost of the second hearings, and I was surprised. Like it's nowhere. It's not announced anywhere. Somehow, not in my circles at least.
Nowhere.
I watched it. I did not go to sleep. I watched it, and then I woke up today early in the morning and rewatched it. Mind blowing. Mind blowing. People, please check it out. The links are in the description. It's by Christina Gomez. She kind of did a commentary on it, and she streamed it live with her friend. Big shout out to everybody. And Caleigh, thank you so much. I am like really appreciative to go on this. Like, it's not a rabbit hole at this point. Like the moment people will start.
No. This is no rabbit hole. This is, I mean, it's strange. Everyone, what I respected about the presentation, besides, I mean, it's like they were trying to do actual scientific analysis, etc., but was that even they were holding off, and it's like, this extraterrestrial, we don't know. What we know is we have at least 3, and maybe who knows how many more are buried in this mine, right? Because they still haven't fully excavated. This is just what these grave robbers stumbled upon. And, these are 3 creatures of a species that doesn't connect with any species on Earth. Like the first thing, even just the 3 fingers. When you look at them, and they went into a careful analysis, this is not a joke, this is not some hoaxy thing. I mean, 20 scientists are signing their name saying, listen, I'm a biologist, I analyze this skin, I don't know what it is. It's skin, there were details that were fascinating. The one biologist who went in and said, it's like, oh yeah, I see, I'm pretty sure I found the like the spinal cord for this animal. He found like a little section that seemed to be, you're doing a little autopsy, you're taking apart your frog, as people do. Now, which one is this? This is the other thing. It's like they said, it's like, okay, well, this one is a modified woman who might be some kind of hybrid, which we don't know, which is just mind-blowing again. It's like, what the hell? No citizen on this planet should not watch this video. It's ridiculous. It's like all of these things might be true.
So Caleigh, this one, there were 3 specimens, and I don't know how the YouTube kind of copyright works. So I will be like not playing the videos, but showing the pictures of what we are talking about. So just to start us off, we have a live stream that lasted for 4 hours. So here is Christina. So she gathered kind of the large crowd to discuss that live stream. Here is the French scientist who, since 2015, I think, he's working on that discovery or something, and he wants to. He proposes a non-human being museum starting from 2024. Just because I clicked, I'm like, it's very improvised live stream. I did not prepare the clips. I'm sorry. And this particular picture, he said last week This is the new one. It's the same species as Maria, and we will go later into who Maria is. Maria is one of the 3 species presented here, but this one is a 4th species, and he said there are more. This is another mummy yet. It looks kind of like Maria, but Maria is a slightly stronger jawline, and she's bigger. So I hope I can find it. So what did you think about that?
As I said, I mean, I see these things and these scientists are presenting and they're talking, but what I personally like, I guess it's just me because I do have a bit of a science background. Like I studied biology
Yeah.
at university. Oh, is that us or something else? Anyways, I saw a spinny thing. And I want to see the data. Like these people are talking about what they've investigated, but it's like, I really want to see, this is like, when you see the MRI and it's like, okay, I don't know how you do that. You would have to make a skull to fake this. You would have to cast all of the individual, design the entire creature, cast all the bones, place all the bones somehow, paint it all to join it together with some kind of weird material, do a whole bunch of dips in various material, insert an organ here and there. I mean, it would be the most elaborate hoax maybe ever. More elaborate than that film one, because these are physical. People are taking skin samples. This is what I want to see. I want to see the chemical analysis of all of these things. Like that is really, like when they talk about the DNA at one point, where they've done some DNA analysis and they're trying to connect it with things, and the best guess was 2 kinds of ape and some kind of reptilian, or maybe when you look at the skin, I feel amphibian more than reptilian. Because there's a smoothness and there's no scaling, there's no texture to the skin, which seems like much more like frog-like or salamander than actual reptile.
Oh, okay. So the DNA part, they discussed closer to the end. I'm trying to share screen. I don't know, what am I showing at the moment? Oh yeah, that one. Oh, that's the wrong one. Sorry. So here are the bodies, and I think this is the plastic surgeon who discusses it. And he said there are no
very detailed.
Also, I remember, like, he with such care, and guys, you can see the timestamp, so please check it out. With deep care, he said, they weren't gentle with the bodies. This is a delicate tissue. You will ruin it. Please be gentle with those mummified bodies. I kind of appreciated his care. So the point that he made that I really, really loved, he said there is, as a plastic surgeon, he is able to conclude, and he examined this in person. None of the bodies were modified. Like there is no evidence of glue, of joint tissue. Furthermore, I think further on in that clip, he will zoom into the eggs. Each egg that one of the species had, she had four eggs, like 3 big ones and 1 in developmental stage. He zoomed in and he saw, here is how the blood vessels connect to the eggs. Those level of details, like modifying that or fabricating that, is near to impossible. Also, why?
There is no way these are fake. There is no way. That's just, as they said in the announcement, they were basically saying at the start, they're saying, listen, anybody who writes an article that says that these are fake is essentially committing an act of vandalism upon the planet. Because all you're doing is promoting disinformation. We have facts, we've done analysis. This is the truth. This is like as objective truth as we can get to. This is what we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yes.
So,
This
Caleigh,
thing
what
about
did
the
you think
hips
about the heel
was
bone?
fascinating. The pelvic change. They did a careful analysis of the structure of the pelvic area of each of them. And they noticed a change in the angle of splay in the pelvis over a lifetime, as if walking in a certain way would slowly wear you down, or as a human, the way we get shorter over time. Our spine compresses because we walk upright. You know, as these people
Yes.
develop, that was like so key. As you said with the eggs as well, it's like there's not like 3 identical eggs. You can see that each of these eggs is on a cloacal kind of tube where eggs get made. You know, and one starts and then it gets more and more deposit of calcium and more deposit of calcium, and then finally comes out. These kinds of biological details are just much too involved for any kind of hoax.
Okay. I'm trying to show the eggs at the moment. I'm sorry, like my internet is very limited. So here are the
Okay. Oh, yeah.
I hope I.
A lateral image of the eggs.
Lateral diríamos, ¿no? Bien, ahí pueden ver.
There you can see
Una
even
especie de,
some kind of
una especie de,
some kind of
una fibra o
fiber or something
que estomacal que sostiene los huevos.
that is in the belly that sustains or gives space to the eggs. Next image.
Ahí podemos nosotros observar.
And there you can also observe very clearly some
una lectura tomográfica.
tomographic reading, and when the tomographic cut was made, we found in the eggs actual fetus
embriones. Es decir, estaba en
embryos. Like
pleno proceso de reproducción.
It was
Right.
in full reproductive development.
Yeah. So, what did you think about having an actual? So one thing is having an egg, but to have a fetus, like
Inside the egg, that's what I mean. It's like the level. This would be like a $20 million special effect to try and create, and then it's actually made out of some kind of biological material, so that just puts it in the impossible level, because you know that's not what people use starch, but they don't use complex things that hang together. Now there's no way this is fake. This is the unbelievable thing. It really is. Like this is the greatest biological discovery in the last, like pretty much since dinosaurs, I would say, since the, you know, sort of the idea of being able to put together, construct histories like that. Because again, 3 fingers. I'm sorry, there's no species. Our whole planet, even frogs, all of our ancestors going back to the coelacanth or whatever, for some reason we have a 5-finger thing on this planet. Like it's the way it started. And since everybody's evolved, everyone's further down the stream from the first person. All it takes is the first person to have 5 fingers, and then everybody's going to have 5 fingers because everyone's one of their children.
Yes. I am curious about the idea of 3 fingers and then 5 fingers. At some point, there was a scientist who said, I use the scientific method, only scientific method. And the only thing I can conclude is it seems like they are from the future and we might become them. So to him, it seemed like they are advanced versions of us in a way. Do you remember that?
Well, Yeah. Because there's like humans especially, there's a sort of a weird evolutionary thing that a lot of the times when species evolve, what they do is they become more childlike. Human beings have no hair. We have larger head proportion than like animals further down. Our scaling is more like we're little babies of the apes. We're the little weak baby, but therefore we had to use our brain to compensate for this physical diminishment. And this is a thing that you can actually, like, because of the way evolution works, in theory, we have the DNA of everybody tracing back because DNA accumulates. It's like a library for the most part. There's animals that play around with this. Octopus are probably aliens. But so therefore, you lose things. Like as we evolve, we lose teeth. Reptiles have like 32 teeth. And then you go 30 teeth, 28 teeth, 24 teeth. And actually, there's sort of a, it's rudimentary and it should not be taken strongly, but in terms of purely biological evolution, people who don't grow wisdom teeth are sort of like more evolved in that their body is rejecting the things that it doesn't need anymore.
Wow.
And therefore, if you didn't need all 5 fingers, what I don't get is I don't know how you grip things with only 3 fingers. It's not that good. I think 5 is like seems to me like to be, that's a good amount. 5 is very good. You really can wrap your hand around something with 5. With 3, and I didn't look at the details of the physiology of those 3 fingers, but to
I
have
will show
3
it.
fingers and to be able to grab things well, you would need maybe an extra, like our fingers don't splay very much. Whereas birds and some other species, you know, they have sort of a wider grip between their 3 fingers. So that's a thing. It's like, how do you build anything? Or maybe these creatures weren't technological, but how do you get a piece of osmium in the middle of your chest if you're not technological?
I will jump to osmium later on. I do want to discuss it. So, Caleigh, good point that you brought up with the 3 fingers and how do we take anything with the 3 fingers. So, as you can see here, again, guys, here is a timestamp. Check it out. I don't think I'm allowed to share screen or like to play the video. So the point here is that if there were reduced fingers, like if there were fingers that used to be 5 and became 3, we would see that. We would
you should be able to see that in the skeleton. Like you'd have rudimentary, even a horse. If you trace back carefully, you can find fingers up on the leg of a horse.
Yes.
But this does not have that.
So at no point, Dust is a friend of mine. She's like a big shout out. Thank you for being here. I'm like very happy to see you, Matthew. And yeah, meet Caleigh.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Yeah, that's from the East Coast. So I think he's from the same time zone as you, Caleigh. Also a YouTuber. Really smart. Okay, so with the 3 fingers again, to the point, which is if it was fabricated, and the first hearing from September, which was in Spanish, they said, "Oh, it's fabricated." They just took. It is. They agree that it is a biological tissue, but somehow people took a head of a llama, I think, and the 3 thing. They said they took it from a whale or something, like really like combined so many weird animals. And during these hearings, a lot of people put their reputation online, saying, "No, this is each character, each body is consistently one being. It's not fabricated. It's not Frankenstein." And with the three fingers, no species on Earth could have this bone structure. This bone structure is not fabricated. This is an actual bone. The problem is, in order to see that bone, like in order to see that creature, scientists need to fly into Peru. They said, like, our doors are open, come in. They will not send it because the artifacts like that, they are not allowed to be sent. They are not allowed to be distributed, kind of. Yeah, they have to be in Peru. So people have to come to Peru. And I think this is the obstacle for the scientists. It's easy. Look, based on those pictures, we conclude that this is fabricated. Like, come, and they're like, come here, look at it.
You know, I heard they invented this thing called the airplane. And you can get on them and they take you to places. So like you could live in New York, scientist person, and you fly in this airplane and it takes you to Peru. So then you can go see them. Like that is the most disingenuous, ridiculous argument. It's just absurd.
Yes. And well.
But this is fascinating, this three fingers thing.
Yeah.
Because nothing has three fingers. Nothing on Earth, like nobody, even the three-toed sloth. And I'm not a biologist, but I would bet you, I bet you dinner that I could find the other two toes someplace on that skeleton of the sloth. They'll just be little tiny nubs at the side of the wrist or something. But, you know, almost always it's hidden in the phalanges of the hand or something. But you look at these and the scientists analyze them. These are biologists. And they're like, what is that? That's crazy. Look at this, a new kind of hand. I wish we could zoom in. This is why I want.
I can try, but like, I don't know, like, look, does it do anything, Caleigh?
Yeah, more. That's what I mean. It's like, I want the x-rays. I need like full size x-rays.
It doesn't allow me to zoom.
I want the chart that has the spectroanalysis. I want to see exactly what is going on here.
When you say zoom in more, I remember that like old movies where they say when they look at the newspaper and they're like zoom in, and like somehow they're zooming into excruciating detail. Yeah.
It just like creates detail out of nothing.
It's awesome. I love those. Yeah. So this was the point. I think also another part that I really loved is about osmium, but also silver. I'm like currently looking for the chest plates. The rapper, I loved him, by the way. He was awesome. I think, can you see when I'm scrolling, can you see like when I'm trying to, okay, there are the plates. Okay. Oh, osmium. Okay, let me play a little bit.
It is relevant to highlight that osmium is an element that was officially discovered by Smithson Tennant and William Hyde Wollaston in 1903. Due to its electric properties, osmium is used in the fabrication of some electronic devices and in the production of sensors. Additionally, the microscopic study through an optic metallography has revealed the existence of a matrix of microstructures with microscopic pores and microinclusions in the implant. Number 5. Nevertheless, despite the progress pointing towards the confirmation that these bodies are real and the presence of osmium in a metallic implant, it is evident that further research is required due to the marked structural and morphological differences that have been detected through the compared anatomy. Therefore, it is important to highlight that these preliminary results are not conclusive. Number 6. During the conservation and custody period of the desiccated fetus, our research team, mainly formed by specialist medics, has encountered multiple obstacles in the execution and proper culmination of the research. These challenges include the pandemic, budget limitations, lack of institutional support, lack of logistics, equipment, as well as legal interference from.
Okay, I will come back to it. So what I wanted to say that I did not say before, but I would like to talk about. The proposal is from this UFO hearing, second UFO hearing. The proposal is that those bodies, they don't say it's, they don't claim it's extraterrestrial or stuff like that, but they what the claim is, they have unknown DNA. So the two species, that species, two individuals on the screen, they are about 60 centimeters. In Canada, you guys have also centimeters, right? Like I don't know how to, like in US,
Yeah,
guys,
half
check
a
out
meter
what
and a bit.
60 check out what the 60 centimeters is. So those two are tiny beings, and one of those tiny beings has a metal plate inside. She's allegedly she's a female because she has those 4 eggs, and the metal plate inside her chest is consists of really high percentage silver. It's like 99% silver alloy fused with osmium that was discovered only 200 years ago or something. And those beings are 1,000 years old. Even, I don't know. It's also the osmium part. Osmium is extremely expensive. So for the fabrication, that must have been a huge investment if it was fabricated. And another thing about silver and osmium, they're both toxic, which is for me, I was like, even if they feel aren't they poisoning because of the, but okay, apparently for those beings, those were necessary. And yeah, Caleigh, so, and the DNA of those two species, I did not see them analyze. So they analyzed the second species, that is Maria. It's a large species, like our height approximately, that has 3 fingers still, very expressive jawline and elongated skull. And they don't know, they call it Maria, but it might be a male species, a male kind of as well. They don't know it. The only DNA presented that they analyzed was Maria's DNA, and she's a hybrid kind of. So she has DNA of she's from Peru and has DNA from monkeys that are in Africa, and two different types of monkeys. It's like 30% or something. Then
Yeah,
she has
wasn't it like a part bonobo, part something else?
chimpanzee.
Is best they could map.
Was like chimpanzee and bonobo.
Yeah, bonobo, which is close to a chimpanzee, very closely related. But they're both, they're both in our family.
Yeah.
Like of the great apes sort of thing. Like, our closest relatives are still alive.
Wow. And like it was 1,000 years ago, allegedly, whatever, if carbon dating is working properly, it's 1,000-year-old mummified body of a species that's called Maria. But as we showed at the beginning, last week, they have apparently there is another body like Maria with the same kind of physical apparent features, probably with similar DNA kind of combination. I'm like, my mind are blowing.
No,
What did you think
it's
about
totally
it?
mind blowing. I mean, this is just crazy. I mean, if these can't be hoaxes, that means where are they from? How did they evolve? Where did these fit in the tree? When did they come out? Are they human? Like, did they live on Earth and there was a whole bunch of creatures? Because there's a billion years in the evolutionary space there, even before dinosaurs, when lots of things could exist and then get erased. We have surprisingly little physical data that we work from. You know, we've got a whole bunch of certain kinds of fossils, but the entire fossil record that we have been able to extract so far is not as robust as we would like. Let's use those scientific terms for this. It's like, it's not robust. Our data set is not awesome, but I don't think we're off that far, but there's definitely room, I think, for something to have branched off at some point, maybe, or we have to go for the extraterrestrial, but that all of a sudden goes into a whole realm that just isn't a thing unto itself, because traveling distances, all of this thing, who knows? The osmium plate, though, like, again, it's like, wait, they have to take that out. There was a couple of things that were very important about it. They talked about, okay, so there's this weird silver osmium breastplate, which even just being on the breastplate, okay, weird. There's that much similarity that there seems to be that there's chests and heads and limbs already puts them remarkably close. Like, humanoid is just surprising from an alien. There's no reason for an alien to be humanoid. I'm more expecting, I don't know, an insect or something more like an octopus that would be actually shape-shiftyable or something. I mean, you could be anything as an alien. There's lots of ways of getting around in the world, I'm sure. But if it evolved here, nothing else. Ooh, pretty clouds. Nothing else has these 3 fingers. Nothing else has these circular ribs. The ribs are actually also really interesting because there's biological aspects that are very much like a lot of animals, like the pelvis. It's different, but at the same time, there is a pelvis there. And there's legs that insert into little pelvic spaces. We don't know the mechanism of the joining exactly. And we don't really have a good idea what this would look like full of fluid. Like, these are desiccated.
Yeah.
I almost want them to take one and put it in water and just leave it there and see how the biological tissue swells up from the water present, so that you could get a much better idea of what this looked like when it was actually alive and walking around.
About that, many times during that 4 hours live stream, scientists were saying those species cannot walk on Earth. Like, they cannot walk. Their feet are not made for walking. Their hands are not made for grabbing stuff. But their brain and their eyes are really much larger than humans. So huge eyes, huge brains compared to the rest of the body. So the thing that I was thinking about, and also it's not everybody agrees with Graham Hancock about the Earth being like much older, and that our DNA is actually reduced, not evolved. So it used to be more evolved and it's reduced now. That was if anybody watched Netflix series from Grant Hancock, please check it out. Like he kind of danced around that idea. To me, what the interesting part is, if they are not made for walking, if they are not made for grabbing things, but their mind are evolved, and somebody during that presentation said that it seems like they are from the future in a way. We might be them. Perhaps it's another thing. Perhaps we are from them. I don't know. I was thinking, what if those species were in a ship somewhere in the atmosphere, suspended, and they evolved not to walk, not to experience the same gravity as we do? It's just a thought. And that's why perhaps they can they have a power, or like they have kind of telekinetic abilities due to their metal plates like that, because both silver and osmium are very electroconductive. So perhaps it used in kind of, it was a sort of technology. Also, that metal plate in the chest, it's hollow, and the bone tissue grew into it. This means when the metal plate was introduced into the body, it took some time, and the being was alive. So the same as with implant teeth, the bone managed to grow into the metal plate. And they showed all the evidence during that presentation, which is, I'm like, my mind are blown. Why is it nobody talks about it? Like,
I know.
it's just like, why? So what do you think, Caleigh? Like at the beginning, they also showed kind of a testimony of pilots that there were a lot of sightings in the atmosphere. So when the plane flies, they see kind of, there is some action going on in the sky. So there are some ships in there. What if there are ancient aliens, or maybe they're not aliens, maybe they're native to our planet? What if they used to be long before us? They moved, for some reason, they moved into the atmosphere, and that's how their body atrophied.
Yeah,
It's
I
the
don't know.
atrophy of the body, like, because it cannot grab things, it cannot walk. It like those tiny beings, they're useless, basically. It's one of the scientists said. I'm quoting here. I'm quoting.
Yeah. No, I mean, once you start to think about alien civilizations, you have to, like, who knows that these creatures aren't actually, like, basically I don't want to use caste, but like a subspecies, because we are just humans, and right now, basically, there's humans, and we're all the same humans. But in many species, like termites are probably the best example on Earth, where there's really dramatic types of this species that have very particular jobs within the species. So if you are an alien species, you might have this creature, and it's like, well, they're smart enough, they have the big enough brain to do all the things we need them to do. They have really delicate little fingers to operate the device, that their entire purpose is to just be in this device, quite possibly. Like they might even live in this device, from their inception. That maybe they never essentially leave the egg. Their spacecraft is the egg that slowly evolves or something. I mean, or a larger thing, because some of these structures are really fascinating. The chunk of spacecraft that, who is it, Gary Nolan or one of these guys claims to have, and some of the analysis is really fascinating. But I mean, maybe they are a caste within, so they would be very, very specialized. No, they don't need to walk. They're never going to walk. They're placed in this chair or this little place, and this is where they live for their lives. And then they crashed, and they were found, so they were buried. but we can't, like, they might not be the entirety of it. That she's bearing eggs is interesting because it's like, okay, so they must, this one creature is, you know, a reproducing caste, so to speak, a reproducing subspecies within this larger group, if there is one. But it would account for why they don't need to be able to walk. This is their job, or maybe it's like they just sit in these things. What happens to the child, though? Like, well, let's play this out. You're one of these creatures. You drop an egg. The egg hatches. It's an egg, so that means it's got a certain autonomy. You know, like part of the egg hatch, like, you know, reptiles, when they come out, all of this, most of the species that have hard-shelled eggs, chicks, they can already, when they pop out, they've got some feathers, and they've got a beak, and they can start hunting on their own to a degree. You know, there's some socializing that goes on, but they're capable of feeding. They don't need to suckle from the mother.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's it's a very big distinction there about, like, animals that suckle are completely.
Except platypus, though. Like, platypus is the only mammal where babies do need to suckle, but the platypus actually lays eggs. And after the baby platypus, like, platypus is the only animal I know.
But platypus is like, well, you might as well just say alien, because the platypus is
Australia.
so. Not just Australia, but I think even within the marsupials, which are odd genetic group, the platypus itself within those is the most extreme. I mean, it's the octopus of the
of species of mammals.
Yes. You know, so that's really, but this is exactly the possibility. Once we're talking about aliens, wait, all of these things are possible.
Yeah.
Simultaneously. Who knows? You could be an animal, and at a certain part of your maturity, you eat a certain plant because in your hormone cycle, suddenly this plant is appealing to you. And you eat this plant, and because this plant has certain chemicals, it causes further hormonal changes, and you might evolve into a whole new stage of yourself. I mean, the whole pupa chrysalis butterfly thing, that could happen in all different species too. So, though, with this particular species, looking at the embryos that we get to see inside the eggs, which is just one of the most mind-blowing things about this, it's like they cut the egg, or they did an X-ray slice of the egg, and you see a little thing inside of there. It's like, what? That has got to be a thing. Where do these things come from? What are these creatures? Like, I don't know. Like, right now, it's like every scientist, every biologist on the planet should just be like, stop what you're doing. Stop whatever you're doing, because whatever you're exploring, you can probably come back to in 5 years and it will still be around. But these creatures are singular. Like, imagine these are the three of the only things on the planet, and we discovered 3 platypus. There's no other platypus. These are the only 3 platypus that exist in the universe as far as we know. And what? We're just going to pretend like, oh no, but they're too weird. Let's just pretend like they're not. Let's just pretend like they don't exist. Like we actually did for a little while, because people would tell stories about platypus and people would go, what are you talking about?
Actually, I remember
it's a duck-bill that lays eggs that's got poisonous thorns on the back of its foot.
Only 1 foot? Only 1 foot? Like, it was like, why 1 foot? Like, why not 2 feet? But only 1 foot is poisonous.
Only 1 foot. Like, what?
Also, I do remember the first time they discovered platypus. It took like them years to accept that platypus is not a hoax.
Yeah, because it makes no sense. You got to say no. Somebody stuck this together. Somebody built this. But no, it's a true thing.
Was a pet animal of those guys who kind of crashed It was their dog or something.
This is why I want to see the DNA data, like chart it. Let's get the deep dive on this stuff. I mean, come on, what is machine learning? What is this AI for?
They only analyzed Maria though. Like I did not see, I was looking for the DNA of the tiny ones, of the 60-centimeter guys. No, they didn't tell. But the only thing I think they showed the places where they took the DNA samples from, but from the neck somewhere. But they never said what it actually concluded, except it's not human. That's the only thing I heard. But with Maria is the supposed hybrid. It's half like it looks kind of human, but it has 3 fingers and elongated skull and like massively big jawline. And there they found the 2 monkeys from Africa, and Maria is from Peru again. So kind of idea of some travel there. But also part human, but also part unknown species. Again, this unknown, and again they presented the method they used for DNA. They said, okay, for the bacterial kind of contamination, let's take into account, like let's discard 5% of it, basically. Like I don't know. Are you right,
Yeah.
Caleigh?
Though if they sample from inside carefully, you'd think that they could get a fairly clean, like there was a liver. Remember
Oh
they
yeah,
said that
yes, there was a liver thing, like,
and that it was
and
desiccated,
well
but it
preserved.
seemed like it might have actual biological like still be active, retrievable DNA in there.
Yeah.
Like it's not fossilized. They're not that old. They're just mummies.
Yeah, that's why they're vulnerable. What that scientist, the plastic surgeon guy said, they are very vulnerable. Please be careful. Do not butcher it. And he's like,
Yeah.
Guys, I do like Peru, but can you please get Smithsonian? Not Smithsonian. Sorry, not Smithsonian. Can you get like a more better kind of well-equipped universities to explore? Yeah.
I don't understand how CNN or at least one PBS, somebody, that not one of the major like carriers was showing this. The only place is Christina Gomez, Iraq, okay.
Christina, shout out. I put the link
Yes.
below. Like we totally will join your Discord. I will try to join your Discord. The link is in the comments in the Christina's video.
But how is this the only person that is carrying what is quite possibly the most important biological discovery in like since who knows what, in terms of evolution or like grand biologies ever maybe ever?
Oh, do you think it's the status though, Caleigh? So I heard that the gestures, they can speak the truth because they're not scared for their status. So Christina is like playing the role of a gesture. Let's say, oh man, I have nothing to lose. Let me show it to you. Although, but the people are during that presentation, they are actually legit scientists. They all put their reputations online, and yet mainstream media doesn't want to show it. I don't know. Like, I hope my channel will not be banned for discussing that.
I just don't understand how it could not be carried more widely. It's just, it's strange, especially considering all that's been going on. But I talked to my brother or my mother about, because I've been keeping up with the UAP hearings, et cetera, because I'm fascinated by it. I mean, how can you not be? Like George, what's his name? Kevin Newth, scientist. Shout out to Kevin Newth as well. He's just like very level-headed about it. It's like, okay, this is the data. You cannot deny it. 10,000 crummy photographs, after you lay them on top of each other as transparencies, all of a sudden are a very solid craft. That's the way you have to look at this data. You can't say, oh, well, it's zipped off, so could have been anything, could have been anything, could have been anything. You can't say could have been anything 10,000 times without coming to some, well, there's a something there that's that anything. There's got to be something that's that strangeness that we can't decide. And to walk away from the inexplicable, how are you a scientist? I'm sorry, isn't that the job, is to learn the unknown?
Status.
And it's more like lately it's to get the details about the known is the job of a scientist. To get the very, 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 very picky details about the known. But let's not play around with the unknown, because, you know, it could get embarrassing. We might say something that gets proved wrong later, and it's like, oh no. There's no daring, come on. Avi Loeb, who I still think is nutty, but that's just my opinion. I haven't met you, dude, you might be awesome, okay? I'm just saying. This is the way I perceive him, the way he's been carried through, but at the same time, I give him strong credit for being, you know, daring enough to have the courage of saying, hey, what if? If we don't explore it, we're being lazy. We're not doing due diligence unless we explore all of these things fully. To pass it off without doing your full diligence, you know, is bad science. It's bad science. And this is where people start to get into their conspiracy theories, because it's like, wait, why would you not want to do good science? Why do you want this to remain unknown? That's not very human. That's not our thing. Our thing is to know everything about everything so that we can exploit it to our maximum, so we can be lazy little monkeys and sit in our chair and have fruit fall into our laps.
So, Caleigh, I wanted to get a point about the funding of this thing. Some of the speakers there, scientists, they said they applied for the funding, but they were immediately discarded as hoax and woo-woo. And they had to found themselves. Like one of the speakers said it was crowdfunded through Gaia somehow. Like so there was like Gaia.com that helped to fund the research on it. Yes, exactly, Dust, you're right. People are scared to lose their reputation and their salaries. Like they would go to research it and they would be fired from their jobs, and they would go to scientists are not good at fundraising. So really, like honestly, there should be some merge there. Scientist wants to work on a project and discovery, but once the funding is cut off, that person has to think, oh, how will I earn money? So it's like they're in a difficult situation. Plus, so many scientists who went and became a little bit more courageous, they lost their licenses. They were laughed at by their own peers, ostracized. And for a human being ostracized is terrible. Laughed at. Yeah, exactly as Dust said, risk of losing reputation prevents the discovery. Like boldly going to the unknown territories is dangerous and will possibly lead to being ridiculed. What did you think about that?
I mean, you know, unfortunately, the truth is that's always been the case. It's like part of physics almost. It's like, you know, you have civilizations have patterns. Patterns are like being in orbit where you have momentum, inertia, you know, and the more inertia you have, the harder it is to push against something. There was there's always these breakthroughs, a sort of like turn of the century, a little over 100 years ago, with electricity and all of, there were all this rupture that just opened up a whole bunch of new thinking and new ways of approaching physics. And then we've been going through sort of like, I mean, not a lull. It's not like there haven't been tons of advances, but it's been more incremental, I think, over the past decades. Genetics has got constantly improved, and that's going to blow up in our faces any day now. You know, once we leverage AI to design things, who knows, soon, as who is it? One of the guys in Devo, I remember, this is like 1970 something, one of my favorite bands, Devo. So he's like, you know, what is this? These lazy scientists. I want to be able to walk into the store, buy a pill, take a pill, and then I'm going to have a bunch of tentacles tomorrow when I wake up. Because there is no reason that we can't, in a way, do that. Okay, maybe it will take a week for the tentacles to grow. But, you know, things take time. But we have that capability. There's a future where the whole concept of biological self will be dropped because, well, when your biology can be whatever you decide it is, when we can reprogram our DNA just using our minds, then bodies are sort of like not the same as they used to be. We have a different view of your body when you can change your body, you know? And we're moving there. We're moving there. But you only get there by taking some chances and exploring.
So I'm thinking of transporter device in Star Trek. So Star Trek, in Star Trek, the teleportation works like that. You kind of disassemble the body. It's in the suspended place, and then you reassemble it in a different place, right? So there is that.
I'm a Leonard McCoy.
Oh, I literally I wrote yesterday that Leonard McCoy. He's the medical officer.
And he's like, no, I do not want to be going. I'm not in that transporter. My soul.
Yeah, because it doesn't want to be
get my soul correct. It might get my body right, but I don't trust it's going to get my soul correct.
Let's talk Star Trek a little bit. So I'm a huge fan of
Huge
the
fan,
old
huge
series.
fan.
Huge fan. Like I'm a nerd.
I think it's the only, to me, it's the only sort of rational extension sci-fi future universe. Star Wars is cool, but it's not scientifically.
No, it's not the same. It's also
it's
like
not consistent in terms of its science, in terms of its logic, in terms of its approach to anthropology and other species, which is what one of the things that I always loved about Star Trek is that it was sort of like explored societies as much as weird aliens, and what being an alien, how those things interplay. You know, it was just, I just find it's a really beautiful, open universe and very logical, materialistic in a way in its consistency.
So to that that transporter kind of capabilities where one body is taken apart to its kind of energy, like soul, I don't know, information. So it's taken into information thing, then it's in the transporter, and then it's rebuilt again. It's like almost printed. It's like that sound. And what exactly is keeping that body in that composition? Like, is it a memory? Like, why is it rebuilt in the same way? And when you say it's a pill, I think even the pill would be like in a video game. So in the video games, a person is like, oh, I will take a pill and I will have tentacles. Here is a tentacles pill, or here's a pill that will have me 3 heads. You know, whatever. Like, even the pill is not necessary. because what is that thing that keeps us in the same shape of all the time and not making us break in, just like keep changing shape, or like even octopus can fit into different shape. Okay, it still has the same amount of tentacles, right? But it can change the color easily like that. It's just like no problem. And it has like it can fit into anything. It doesn't need bones for that. It still functions, and octopi are intelligent. So what is that actually keeps us in that shape that we are in?
Well, this is where you get into the I think, you know, like a morphological field, which is coming back in terms of science. There was a guy a long time ago in the 70s, Burr. I can't remember his first name, but he was one of the pioneers of looking at the sort of like the electrical charge distribution on biological systems, and how there seemed to be like this seemed to be part of how cells regulate their positioning relative to each other, how we maintain our sort of architectural integrity. Because every cell in my body, in fact, I've had crazy experience with that. Years ago, I had a bicycle accident, and a bunch of my upper lip got pulled off, and it was hanging out. And so I walked to the hospital. Actually, I went home first, and then I looked at myself in the mirror, and I'm like, oh, I think I should go to the hospital. So I went to the hospital, and the only guy that was there handy was an intern. And he ended up sewing this entire section of my face here, like this chunk of my lip, upside down, because it would come off. And he put it back on.
Oh my God.
And he sewed it on upside down, because it still looked like it fit. Like, it's a piece of flesh. They're really hard. You know, they're weird and mushy. They're not like building Lego sets. So he sewed it on. And then, you know, a couple of days later, I noticed it's like, oh my God, all the hair follicles are pointing the wrong, like the entire grain of my, you know, the subtle peach fuzz fur that you have all over your body. It all has a flow in a certain direction. This is all part of our, you know, the way our energy flows in our cell. And this patch was like upside down. And it took about 5 years for it to slowly reorient itself and go, oh, wait, no, we're supposed to be this way.
You did not need to reorient it, right? Like
well, it was too late. It was sewn on, and it started healing, like 3 days of healing. I'm not going to go back and get it pulled off again just for that. So I was like, okay, let's see what happens. You know, I mean, maybe I'm going to look like Frankenstein for the rest of my life.
Your body reshaped itself, right?
But my body slowly was like, oh no, you should know. This is the way the energy goes. This is that, you know, this sodium channel on this cell is supposed to be here relative to that cell. Like, it's all in there someplace, sort of, you know. It is sort of, people don't like to think of DNA as a blueprint, and I don't think it's the blueprint is quite the right. It's more like it's the tools for building us. And it does have a timeline, and you're supposed to use these tools in this order to get the pre-planned design, though at any time you're allowed to modify the design. I think part of the thing is that people get wrong is biological systems are built to adapt their morphology, their self, to the environment they end up growing in. Because if you preset everything in advance, then you turn out to be a thing that is not at all suitable to this environment. So it's very good to have a certain flexibility within your development so that you can, you know, you're denied this vitamin. Okay, well, now you're smaller, but that's okay, because you didn't have that one ingredient, but that's okay. We can handle that. You're not going to completely die. You just will have a slightly different morphology. Like people now, there's that whole thing. Everyone was like, oh my God, look at everyone's all of a sudden 6 feet tall. People in the Middle Ages, 5'2" was a perfectly reasonable height to be in England in the Middle Ages. If you're 6 feet tall back then, it's like, okay, you're quite the tall, exceptionally tall person, aren't you? That's just about a diet thing. We're very flexible things. I think it's wrong. The main thing is like, we're not machines. We're soft machines. We have a lot of pliability in us and a lot of room for change. And, as we know, octopi and tardigrades have an exceptional ability for accessing that stuff in a sort of more directly than we do, but maybe that's I don't know. It would be cool to have, but it might really be weird also.
Caleigh, with the tardigrades, I was like recently watching like a small debate on Discord. So people were asking, why would not we actually just send tardigrades into Mars? Why would not we just send it? And apparently, we don't want to contaminate Mars with our tardigrades. So like even all the Mars rovers, they're like thoroughly disinfected. Like there is nothing that we bring. So that was interesting to me. Tardigrades are badass, like that, like the most survivable species ever.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm of two minds about these things. While I respect the you want to keep it biologically pure, so that the information you get is accurate. But I still think we should have been sending poop to Venus since we have rockets.
Sorry, why?
Because Venus has got a whole bunch of precursor molecules. Like it doesn't have life on it, but it has a whole bunch of like methane and all kinds of other stuff.
I get it.
And if we threw a bunch of bacteria, like just throw everything we have, like one of everything at Venus, I think there's a good chance that in a few million years, we might be able to bioform it.
Only in the atmosphere, though. Like Venus is too hot. The bacteria that we have, unless like we did discover some bacteria on Earth that can survive in the crater. So actually, in the crater, they discovered bacteria. They're like just the crater slightly cooled, and there are already alive bacteria there. How? The temperature was enormous in the crater, in the active volcano, and yet the bacteria still move there. So with Venus, the temperatures there are on the surface, really hot. But in the Venus atmosphere, there are kind of cooler places. So if the poop would float in the atmosphere of Venus, it might find oh my God, I think it's getting silly.
No, but I just think, why not? Like, if we just do that, you just throw everything you got, like as many species as you can. You just want something to stick. Because as soon as one thing sticks, you're good. That's how it probably happened here, unless Prometheus thing, which is now looking more and more possible. Aliens come to Earth, they see a planet. It's like, man, this planet would be really good. It would be really good for life if it had some life on it. Or maybe they come and there's already a bit of life and they go, okay, well, let's just throw in a corpse or two.
Oh God, the corpse.
Because that'll have all the DNA and that will give an extra nudge in a certain direction to the planet. And then we can watch what happens, because I'm pretty sure that this is a giant Petri dish experiment for somebody.
Actually, the way the life started with those plants that like one cell plant organisms, I forgot how they're called, that produced the entire oxygen, and like most of the carbon kind of thing was once those plants. I think like
Yeah, like plankton type stuff.
yeah, it came from somewhere. Like there is no this point, oh, it just fused, it just appears out of thin air. It had to have come from somewhere. And like I did watch one of the interesting YouTube videos on a theory that it came through the meteors. So the meteors that were falling into the Earth atmosphere, and the atmosphere was not the same as right now. Now it's different. Now it's more kind of burning it. But in the ancient times, it was really thin. So the meteors were not burning up upon landing as much as they do now. And the thing that was in the kind of water on the meteor, in the ice, it might have the organic beginnings in it, and that's how the life started. It was just a theory. I don't.
The life thing is very fascinating. I have to say, okay, so the two big things is, in a way, at some point, life had to come from nothing. Because, well, where did that life come from? Like, if it didn't come from nothing, there has to be at some point, there had to be a biogenesis, completely chemical origin to life, at some point, someplace. Now, for a long time, we believed that's what happened here on Earth. And we've been trying to figure out how that chemistry happened so that we could make life out of completely not living things here on Earth. And there was a lot of really interesting work, and we've gotten kind of close, but really not there. True space, in space, formaldehyde, which is a fairly complicated organic type molecule, forms spontaneously in space just because these atoms floating around, when they get really, really cold, they'll start to fall together because gravity and this and that, you know, and they make these organic molecules, but that's not life. So what is kind of annoying to me is that this whole alien thing, if they started life on this planet, that means it's completely pointless for us to even try and find out how life could have existed spontaneously on Earth, because we are a contaminated experiment. Whereas if life came from someplace, that's really annoying, because now we have to figure out where original life originated to understand the mechanism by which life can actually originate from other things. So I have to say, it's like the whole alien thing is annoying to me, because it means that we're very possibly a contaminated experiment, and there is no way we will ever discover abiogenesis here, because we could not have some missing ingredient. For a long time about life on Earth, I'm like, the moon. Nobody else has a moon. Nobody anywhere that we've ever discovered has a moon anywhere near the size of our moon. Our moon is gigantic proportionally.
It's bigger than Pluto.
Bigger than, like, proportionally to the planet, we have the largest moon we have ever seen anywhere. And that gives us a huge, it's a shield. It's like having a big brother all the time, because that moon, if it's in the right place, it's big enough to shield the entire planet. If the moon is in the right place and there's a solar blast from the sun, it is standing right in front of it. If there's a blast from a supernova out in space that could have decimated the planet, the moon could block it. I'm not saying it will be in the right position, and the likelihood is very low, but it gives us an advantage that no other planet we have ever discovered has, in terms of mediating the amount of radiation we get from all different sources, because also the moon has an extra magnetic field, and there's a coupling between our two magnetic fields so that the entire Earth-Moon system has unusually great protection from radiation. There's a whole bunch of very particular characteristics. Our tilt at 17 degrees means you get seasons, which means you get variation, which stirs up the chemicals. Even the moon itself, and this is a thing that I think is greatly underestimated right now, but consider tides. A tide brings in the ocean up onto a layer of earth, again and again, laminating that surface with biological material of a sort. Then it dries out completely, changing it chemically considerably. Then you get a whole bunch more water later. So there's like this chemical process that's like an additional chemical process that I think is highly underrated. The tides, in terms of moving stuff out, and then it can form a membrane because it's a bunch of stuff laid out on a flat surface. Now it dries up, it forms a membrane, and membranes are everything. Once you've created a vesicle, a closed surface that has a cell wall, once you've created a singularity, in a way, with this membrane, now you can have an autonomous ecology inside of that membrane, which is what every cell is. It's a little packet of stuff that's trying to continue, regardless of what happens outside, I'm trying to keep things exactly like this inside. Homeostasis is like sort of fundamental to biology. You know, we eat food so that we will stay us. And, you know, we have a good amount of fat, a good amount of protein, all of these things.
Pulsating nature, basically. So the tides, the moon is, for people who don't know, the moon is responsible for the water movement on Earth, including water within our bodies. It's like we consist of moon does influence us. Like the proximity of moon to Earth does influence water on Earth.
That's the thing. No other planet has this like such a strong influence.
It's by the size of it, because it's so massive. The cooperation between moon and Earth is crucial to the life. I also, it's like in my previous YouTube educational rabbit holes that I traveled to, I watched videos on Jupiter and how many actual comets does the mass of Jupiter attract. So because it's so massive, it's also a shield. Like we not only we have moon that is shielding, but also Jupiter is a massive shield. It's so big that it gravitationally attracts all the meteors that would have like without it, I don't think life would exist, because we would be constantly bombarded by the meteors.
Right. And you look, almost every single, I mean, how many, what have we had? Like probably 3 or 4 huge meteor hits that have almost wiped out life on the planet. Luckily, life seems pretty durable once you get it started. It's diverse. You know, like once you get it started, it's going to be very hard to wipe it out. But how hard it is to start might be a question. this is why the sort of Prometheus hypothesis that the aliens started life, might have even started life on this planet, I find so annoying, because it just totally eliminates the possibility of us really investigating that avenue.
What did you think in that video from Christina, and that is in the descriptions, please check it out. At the very beginning, there was a conversation with a pilot, and the pilot presented his findings that since the pandemic, sightings of kind of unidentified objects were increased, like massively increased, basically, and they weren't really reported or documented in any way. And he was like, guys, can you please report that? Like, we are all the crew, the people on Earth, like, who are in communication with us at the moment, they all hear it, and those are the things I recorded, basically. Yeah. So I'm curious about that. Is it the spyware of other countries, or is it actually something that is unknown in the Earth's atmosphere, like kind of like a kind of vessels that that are there?
Oh, well, there has to be. I mean, come on. I don't know. Anybody who, I'm an experiencer, so I've seen UFOs twice in my life. Like things, and I look at the sky and I know planes. And granted, every once in a while, I'm like, ooh, could that be a UFO? And then it's like, oh, darn, it's just a helicopter.
Why is it hanging there?
But twice in my life, it was like, I'm sorry. One of the events was with a group of people. There was 5 of us, I think, 4 or 5 of us. And we all were working at this place, and we were working at a childcare facility, and we were putting stuff away for the day. And we looked up because it was outdoors, and we look up in the sky, one of the people, not even me, and it's just like, what's that? And we're just all, I don't know. What is that? And it was like a dozen silver balloons with 5 red balloons mixed in, sort of. That's the closest I can come to. Because it was like a blob. It had a sort of, it was spherical, but it had some texture. It looked a lot like, there was a video of a dodecahedron UFO that had sort of like at the corners, like if each of the corners was a red balloon, but the rest of it was silver. Sort of thing, look to it. And it sat there for a while, and we were both like, we were all watching it for like 10 or 15 minutes, just staring at it, wondering, it's like, is it going to float away? Do you see a string that's tethering it? How come it's not floating away if it's balloons? You know, like we're just very logically, what is that? And then eventually it was like, I don't know, but it's not moving, and we have to get stuff put away. So then we finished our work. And then we didn't see it. And then either that night or the next day, we were at my friend's house, which was in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
And he's like, hey, there's that thing from the other day. And we all look in the sky, and there it is again, at almost the same place. And it's just sitting there. And so who knows?
Do you live near the airport? Anywhere?
No. This is it was floating like right over downtown Toronto. Like right over downtown Toronto. Which is not, there's a tiny airport, but I mean, I've lived here my whole life. It was like weird. We all thought it was like, that's weird and strange, but who knows what it is? You don't want to, you don't want to go beyond what you know. So all we knew is
telescope.
I wish I had. But it's interesting that a friend of mine, who I didn't know at that time, the other week I was saying, oh yeah, I saw a UFO once in downtown Toronto. He's like, when was that? And it very well could have been the same day. Not only that, but he was at a Rosicrucian or some kind of, maybe it was a UFO group, I can't remember, but he was at some slightly, esoteric meeting. And they said when they came out of the building, they looked up and there was this UFO above the building.
Listening in. They're like, with that, like, can you speak
Maybe.
up?
But that would make sense because relative to where I know I was in the city, it would make sense for it to have been that same UFO, actually. Because we don't get many up here in Toronto.
I'm trying to make sense of the increased activity as a writer. So,
well, there's that one thing. There's the aspect about the animals that, you know, I think everybody almost on the planet noticed, is that because humans basically hid indoors for a month or two. Coyotes and everybody, all the animals, all of a sudden took another step closer to us and are like, hey, well, if those people aren't going to use that space, let's use it ourselves. And I think there's been a lot of that. Like all the animals are coming much closer to humans now than they were. And personally, I think we're getting closer to a place where we as humans can see ourselves having relationships with other animals in a much less user hierarchical way than tradition. You know, there was a period where humans really, really wanted to dominate this planet, to show that we could, to convince ourselves that we could. We're at that space. We're gods, relatively speaking. We can kill all the other species. We're relatively gods on this planet now. So now we now have to take this evolutionary step as a god where, okay, now I need to restrain my power and figure out how to apply it. First, I was gaining my power. Now I have my power. Now I need mastery over my power, which is not, you know, like a kid with a blade and you want to teach him to use a sword. And you say, okay, here, practice a bunch and cut all these things and do a whole bunch of really extreme stuff. As you get more and more mastery, you learn that you never need to pull out the blade. If you manage the rest of things properly. That's the master. So I think we are about to take that step. We have to. If we're going to survive, we have to stop the Nova mob and secure this planet. And that security is preserving all the species. Because we don't know what's important or not. It's like knowledge. You just get knowledge. You can't decide in advance, oh, I want to know about this, but I don't want to know about that. Because you don't know when a apparently random piece of knowledge will suddenly be the linchpin to an idea. So it's the same thing with species. We need to preserve them all.
So most of the species that ever lived on Earth are gone beyond return. That's a fact.
Oh, I know.
We are like,
trust me.
We are like.
I broke my heart once. I read the Wikipedia page on all the animals humans have extincted.
Not only humans, also the natural disasters as well.
Oh, that happens too, of course. And that will happen, and humans might get a rate, you know, we might go. Big deal. I don't know. In the long run, whatever, humans. You know, species come and go, planets come and go, galaxies come and go. Enjoy it while you can. Make friends with friends.
Humans certainly did not help. Humans made it worse. That's what I mean. That's what I guess the point is, that humans actually add to the pile of that. Humans have extinguished themselves a lot. I really like I still am upset about the Tasmanian tiger. That
Oh
was
my
a
God.
beautiful species. God, please, like that one last one, like clone it. I was like,
No.
clone it.
I know,
Please,
something.
do something. Help. Yeah.
No, I consider, every species we've lost has been a major failure on our part. We were given Eden.
Yeah.
So my thing is, well, scientists invent new species. Whatever sticks, sticks. Evolution is a harsh mistress. And a million years from now, we have no idea what's going to be alive on the planet. But the more diversity we have, the better chances there are of things surviving. This is the point about diversity. This is why diversity is basically fundamental biology. You don't want your children to be exactly like you. You want them to be a little bit different than you. They need to be original and different from each other, so that one of them will fit in this niche and one of them will fit in that niche. And they will have children, and their children will be different, and they will fit in the new niches, because everything changes. If you stay the same, then you don't fit, because the world will change around you.
The Star Trek. I keep thinking about this cognitive distribution idea. Everybody's different, cognitively different on the Star Trek ship, and yet it's functioning as one organism. Even inside our bodies, our cells are different. Like we have skin tissue, we have muscle tissue, we have brain tissue, and it functions. If all of us would have the same composition, we would not be able to function. And taking the living pulsating organism, which is like I see let's say a Star Trek ship as the organism, as a living organism, and every crew member is a kind of different type of cell. Like you said, you're McCoy, but there is also a Kirk and Spock, and also Nurse Chapel, and yeah, all of that is important. And I was thinking about that importance of diversity. It's important. Like one thing, yeah, we do have to have the memory composition that would allow us to continue into the future and take the same shape, or like similar shape, or like slightly a shape that slightly resembles the previous shape. It's a good way.
This is what
yeah.
I mean, even in computer systems, this is what they're discovering. It's like, oh, well, that's what you want. You need to branch off and make a whole bunch of prototypes, right, to find the one perfect. And none of them each will be perfect for a different situation. Mm-hmm. It's like the fractal nature of things, right? Everything's always breaking apart, but there's a new thing at the tip, and that will break apart, and there'll be new things at that tip. I think I don't know. It's nice when people see it that way, and I think this is why I've trusted in my life to just do what I want. Because if I do what I want and everybody does what they want, everything will get fitted, and what doesn't get done clearly wasn't important anyways. Like why it's so important that we mine this much of a mineral. It's like, well, how about we just live without that mineral? We lived, a million or 10,000 years ago, 20,000, 40,000 years ago. Pick a number before there was even civilizations, Graham Hancock. So 100,000 years ago. Okay, we'll give lots of timeline. We had nothing and we survived. We are the ancestors of survivors. Your ancestors survived the Black Plague. My ancestors survived the Black Plague, smallpox, everything that the universe has so far thrown at us. That we exist now means that we are a continuous line from that time. We have survived all the troubles that they did already.
Okay.
So
yeah.
we need to get hold of ourselves and go, hey, let's not be victims anymore. You know, that, and we've done that and gotten too far with it. And now we're victims of ourselves. So now we just need to have the wisdom to take that power that we have and a little smarts, and we can make this planet not only yield all the food we need, we can replenish these species and make the world even more diverse than it ever has been, if we want. I think it's within our capability. And you do that by letting things blossom. This is the Star Trek future. It's like, you know, UBI. It's like, why UBI? So that these scientists down in Peru can just go ahead and investigate. They don't have to worry about whether their salary is paid for the next 6 years, so they can survive to find out what the heck this thing is. You just say, of course, food and lodging for everybody. Keep yourselves busy. Try and be productive.
It's just like the arguments that, oh no, that's just Peruvian guys try to get more tourism. Oh, did you hear them? He proposed a museum of non-humans mummies. It's like, and what if? Like, even just investigate, find out what it is. Stop cutting that at the root of it. Like, to me, the idea that the university that's supposed to be for the discovery, not even looking into that is painful. The news that's supposed to be the news and covering the actual stories, it's worthy. That presentation was really good, mind-blowingly good. I don't think it's fabricated. I don't believe that people would go through so much trouble to fabricate it. It's like, and
Anyway,
even, yeah,
it's the university's job, therefore, to get another researcher to disprove it, to do this analysis and go, no, this guy's a fake and here's the data to prove it. But to say, oh, we're going to prove it's fake by making sure nobody can find out whether it is or not is nonsense.
The legal part, Caleigh. Like that's what at the beginning the lawyer who said, and he said, universities don't have to. Actually, there is a loophole where universities don't see it as a serious matter. They don't see it as a discovery. They see it, oh, that's the woo-woo stuff. Ufology is not being considered legally as a branch to look into. The moment this is changed, and in the law, and it has to be changed in every country, like Mexico, Peru, USA, all the European countries, it has to be there, taken serious. And this means a bunch of people have to gather up and say, like, should we, like, when we see lights in the sky, should we disregard it? Because it's legally right now to disregard it. It's illegal to store up the panic. It's illegal, but it's legal to cover it up. So I think it's not smart.
I personally would totally, I thought it was maybe a bad idea to have any mention of OVNI with this biological presentation. I think it mixes up things that we can't prove are connected, and therefore it wasn't advisable. Though it should have just been, these are the bodies, and also these are the bodies We don't know where they come from. We don't know anything. We're not going to say they're UFOs. We're not going to say they're anything. I mean, the ovni thing is we should have a world database, and that NASA doesn't have bazillions of data points is ludicrous. Because David Grush, or we're changing topic a little bit, but okay, David Grush, he gives this report. You trace his history. First, he was doing satellite reconnaissance analysis.
Yeah.
Then he got into doing the briefings for the president. Then he gets this job investigating the secret programs and stuff. And then he gives his report. So let's go back to the start. He's doing his satellite analysis, right? And he's just looking at satellite pictures and he's saying, oh, look at this shows that there's this many airplanes. This dirt looks a little phony to me. Probably it's just a cloth covering up, because look at, there's a road that leads into this area. Why is there a road if there's no, this kind of thing. He's doing very, very, thoughtful analysis of photo data. No doubt, and I've never heard him say this, but this seems so logical. He looks at a photograph, then he looks at a photograph of the same place taken a split second later, or two stereo satellites. In one image, it's someplace. The other image, which is taken 1/16 of a second later, the object is gone or is a blur. So he's like, what is that? That doesn't make sense. And then slowly you collect, he's looking at all these satellite data, and then all of a sudden, again and again, he's like, what is this thing? It's in this frame, and then it's out of frame. It's 200 miles further away in the next frame. That's impossible. Like, this thing is moving at 2,000 miles an hour or whatever, something ludicrous. So that was probably what triggered him. All of that satellite data is someplace that we're not getting to see because, of course, it's military, this and that, and they've got their business and who knows what else they're up to. I mean, you hear some of these reports, and I personally expect the US government to be involved in the most heinous crimes. Let me just say, Tuskegee experiment, to me, that's the US government in a nutshell. The Tuskegee experiments, where they let these people have syphilis, introduced syphilis to them, pretended they were treating them with various diseases, but didn't, just so they could see how the disease progressed. This is human biological experiments performed on US citizens by the US government in 1900s. So I'm expecting the most horrible things from this situation, unfortunately. But buried in there is this, well, that means if the US is up to all this craziness with their fake UFOs or developed back engineered UFOs,
Yeah.
that means there's still those actual creatures. And what the hell is going on with this? But the secrecy is just devastating, and this is why David Grush, though there's a weird, the Mormon thing is weird, there's a lot of weirdness around all this, and I don't trust anything said by anybody from Skinwalker Ranch, personally. I think the whole thing is a disinformation project.
So when I listened to the statement at the beginning of the hearings, of the second UFO hearings, first of all, they talked about the need to actually investigate it and stop classifying the reports, to kind of recognize it as a thing. You just recognize it already. Like,
It's a legitimate thing. This is a real
covering
thing.
it up like it's a real thing. So many people see it. Stop just like maybe there is something in there. But there was another part that kind of touched me deeply. People, we are so busy fighting within each other and like being divided into tribes, and like one tribe throws stones at another tribe, and like some other people using that for personal benefit. Pay attention to the science, pay attention to the discovery. This is important. And to me, logically, it makes sense that we actually do stop fighting and start paying attention to the science. I cannot possibly understand how we are still in that century we are right now, throwing stones at each other, like fighting neighbor against neighbor. I don't get it. Breaking instead of building idea is illogical to me. I don't understand what kind of influence makes us human beings do that. Cover up the data and keep fighting and not looking on the thing that is actually we're supposed to be looking at. How is that beneficial? Also, if there is technology, if like, let's suspend my skepticism and imagine that 1,000 years ago there was a technology that made a species that cannot walk, because those little bodies that presented, they cannot walk, but they had a way of moving, communicating, and reproducing, hence the eggs and the communication, also the plate, and also Maria, the hybrid mummy between species, hybrid of different DNA. She had dental work done. Also, like, so there used to be technologies in the past, and apparently we have, if we dig in the right place and put our attention and resources into that, it might be beneficial. So osmium, right now we cannot, it's really expensive to cultivate osmium, and yet the osmium was like used in that mummy plate. So there was a technology that we lost. Let's find it. I don't get it. It breaks my heart in a way. The stupidity.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Humans. We are. Let's see how this plays out. This is no doubt what the aliens are saying. It's like, let's see. Will they kill each other off? Maybe they play this game. They beat the Fermi paradox, and they like to watch civilizations to see who can make it through and who can't.
You said petri dish. That's interesting. So if they're looking into us as this experiment, like you said, throw a bunch of biological excrements into Venus and see what happens there. Like, I am kind of curious but reckless when I think about that. We don't know if the level of radiation is strong enough, but like weak enough to maintain a kind of. I will not go into it. Caleigh, I just want to say thank you. I would like, before we close, for you to talk a little bit about your personal research and your YouTube channel, just to present the viewers with your work.
No, they don't want to go there.
Oh, you don't? Okay, but I liked the idea that you kept bringing up tides and the pulsating nature. About your research, I remember you shared like a donut shape time kind.
Yeah, I have to say, it's like, I'm a scientist, or like I have enough science background to say I would never use the word research for my work.
Okay.
Because it's not physical experiments that I'm doing in the world. It's all theoretical for the most part, though it's all based on data that I found. Like, basically, my main thing is this neutron decay cosmology, which I think is a solution to, as I like to say, my quote, path of least action solution to dark energy, dark matter, black hole paradoxes, and critical density maintenance, which are all physics conundrums. But there is a shape, a topology that we can give space-time, which makes a lot of sense, and I go through the logic, the mathematical logic around it, geometry, and I believe that, you know, Aristotle, or it's like geometry is everything, but it's not angular geometry, it's spherical geometry, it's round geometry. The world is not angles, we make flat things. The universe is all round and wobbly. So the basic premise of neutron decay cosmology is gravity makes things go to singularities, to the most extremely dense thing. This is the nature of gravity. Everything wants to be in one place and just crushes each other to get there. My thing is, like, imagine there's a concert. Everybody's rushing to the fence, right? So the people right at the fence are just solid. There's no room between them. But as you go slightly back from fence, as you go away from the black hole, things get less and less dense until you're in outer space where there's hardly anything because you're the way at the back of the room and you have lots of room to dance. So the premise is everything falls through the event horizon, and the individual neutrons getting spaghettified reemerge, going in at the highest energy density point of the universe, and you will emerge from the lowest energy density point, because the universe doesn't care about distance. It's a single thing. What's here or there to the universe? It will put you where the energy is the lowest, because that means there's the most room, because energy is like density of energy. So at an event horizon, there is no room to move. You are a single thing. I think of event horizons as giant neutrons. It's like one giant single thing. This is why we call them singularities. It's a single surface. It's not a collection of things anymore. It's not an aggregation. It falls, and all of a sudden, now you're one thing again. You were a bunch of things. Now you're one thing again. But the information of those one things that used to be there, all the neutrons, they have to be retained, because it's like the soul or the Hamiltonian of the thing. The core of the self survives, but you get stripped of all your memories, and now you live a new life. And just sort of a constantly homeostatic, steady state universe. The Hubble Doppler, which everyone will bring up, it's like, oh yeah, but the Hubble Doppler, it gets ready to go away because expansion. I say, no, it's not expansion necessarily. The mass of the universe increases to the cube as you go away from yourself. We should expect space to be curved, because there is mass in space, and mass curves space.
Yeah.
We don't see a curve in space because it's curving in all the directions evenly, because it's a three-dimensional space. Therefore, the curvature is in the only dimension available, the frequency dimension. If you took, this is why it gets red the further you go away. There's more mass to the universe the further you go away, so it's curves space more, makes it red. If you take a sheet of structural color, you know, like it's like a surface where you have a bunch of little evenly spaced surfaces, and the space between the surfaces, choose the color. It's like the structural color. Insects use it a lot. They have like little pillars that are all evenly spaced, and because of the distance, it'll look blue, but really it's not blue. It's just a bunch of spikes that are spaced at the blue frequency. So you take a flat sheet of structural material, and then you say, oh wait, we have to bend it a bit because of gravity. So now the surface gets splayed out more and more the further you go, which increases the distance between those points, which lowers the frequency as you go further away. So my postulate is that the Hubble Doppler is completely a geometric effect. I have a video about it, and it even explains how you can have blue shift at local things like stars, which is what we observe, as you get towards a gravitational source, space gets contracted, you get bluer light. Therefore, the reverse happens because we are center and everything's curving away. It's not local. The universe is infinite around us.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, it gets curved more and more. But this is the basic premise.
I don't know. Have you heard that about Saturn? And we're about to finish. We have 5 minutes more. I would like
Saturn?
to finish.
What about Saturn? Tell me about Saturn.
It used to be yellow, but now it's blue.
Oh, there's a bunch someplace else too. Was it Uranus or something? It was like covered in cloud.
Yeah.
And then just like last week, it's like
gone. Yeah. Like there are changes happening and everybody's like, pay attention to the wars and stuff. Like people, there is something going on. And no, they are diverging, like science and sky and solar stuff, diverging your attention from wars, pay attention to the wars. And it's like, we cannot change anything about the wars, but I don't know.
Well, if we were paying attention to these other things, we might not have time for this war-making stupidity.
Yeah.
You know, there's so many better things. I mean, what is it, Mr. Beast or whoever, who I don't know or anything?
Yeah.
You know, how is it that some YouTuber can make 100 wells?
Yeah,
I'm
shut
sorry.
out. Great.
I'm sorry, Jeff and you know, Elon and all you peeps. I mean, I don't have much money, but I still will buy people lunch when I see them on the street, you know, because it's like, you're homeless and you're hungry.
Yeah.
What's a hamburger? You know, to me, it's not gonna, but it's like, how is it that these things are getting so shifted that, you know, music stars are, you know, musicians are doing songs to try and solve hunger. The governments that they are citizens of are not. How is it that the nations of the world are not doing the things and it's being put on the back of individual citizens to make all these changes? That seems to me like a pretty badly run society, in my opinion. That's a whack village, you know?
Yeah.
You need to do a barn raising and it's like, nah, if you want to do it, you do it yourself. That's not a community.
But did you notice, Caleigh, during that video, the second UFO hearing in Mexico, when they interviewed the pilot, so the journalist asked, are you sure those are not Starlink? And I was like, I also had that question in my head. So there is the dude, like he is influencing the UFO landscape because people actually do have to now ask, are those so one thing, okay, weather balloons, so you have to answer questions. Are those weather balloons? No. Are those Starlink? No. It's he is a player in that star landscape, but with the world hunger, actually the brother of Elon Musk, Kimball Musk, he's doing a lot of good stuff in South Africa, like the kitchens that he made for people. So shut out. So the individuals, some individuals go for lol. So Elon's famous quote: "The most entertaining outcome is the most likely." It hurts me how much it might be true because humans actually do like to laugh and smile.
Yeah.
Even like if you smile, you will be happy, or like if you smile, your brain will think you are happy and you will be happy therefore. And humans like kind of have a bias towards the lols and the jokes. Like even if I feel sad, I actually try to make myself laugh. My brain is just starting making little jokes, observational joke roasts about my environment.
Laughing is almost like an interrupted pain mechanism, really. That's why it's like you see somebody get bonked in the head, you laugh because really you're crying for them but
Mhm.
it's not your place to cry because you didn't really get hurt.
Yeah.
So it's almost like laughing is like a half of a cry a lot of the time.
Mm. Yeah, hence the jokers. The origin story of every joker was a massive amount of pain who went through the threshold of the most amount of pain that bordered on desperation, and it turned into this constant laughter. It's like, it's so painful now, I might as well just laugh about it.
Yeah. No, but
That's
I
a
think, I mean, and I think it's a well accepted, idea in psychology that has a lot to do with the laughter. But, that's how we survive. It's like, it didn't break you. And now we get to laugh about it. Because we're not crying, actually.
That's a
When you
great
really need to
point.
cry, then you don't have a choice about it and you just cry. And I think we've all been there sometime.
Yeah, shout out to everybody. Guys, I'm ending the stream. Caleigh, stay a little bit longer in the back studio.
Okay.
So please check out the links below. Check out Christina's wonderful coverage
And
of that.
share it. Nobody is sharing this. How is, like, every single person on the planet needs
At
to have
least
seen
watch
that
it
video.
first. It's like, watch it. It was captivating. I have seen it twice already, and it was like premiered, I don't know, 10 hours ago or something. It's amazing. It's worth it. Like, at least look at it for lols if you're looking for lols. There was a rapper in there. He was pretty good. I really like how Christina, because she speaks Spanish, she protected the rapper. Everybody in the live comments, oh, the rapper is so shiny and stuff, like, oh, why he's wearing glasses? They're roasting the rapper. And Christina is like protected. Actually, I speak Spanish, and he was rhyming it. Like, most of the things he said it in rhyme. It was poetry. She's like, I actually, like, as a poet, I was like, yeah, my girl, you have his back. It was so good. It was such a human thing. Humans are amazing. Yeah. People,
Yeah.
thank you so much.
Thank
Like,
you.
subscribe, check out Caleigh's YouTube channel. I provided the link below, and yeah, have a great time and a great week. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay.